We live in interesting times. Today's stories. Mattis accuses China of intimidation and coercion in South China Sea. Turkey's nationalist Iron Lady seeks to take on Erdogan. Petrobras CEO resigns after trucker strike cripples Brazil. Canada hits US with billions in retaliatory tariffs in Steel Row. Kiev seeks to reassure West over staging of journalist murder. Canada government steps in to buy controversial pipeline. Plus, the annual Brick Can is back, and former college football star signs a 2-year deal with Hamilton Tiger Cats. This is Eagle News Canada, bringing you stories from around the globe. I am Kenny Aquino. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis said that China's military buildup in the South China Sea and its deployment of high-end weapon systems in the disputed waterway is designed to intimidate and coerce neighbors. Here's Angela Milano with a report.
Speaking at a high-profile security summit in Singapore less than 2 weeks before President Donald Trump is due to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, the Pentagon chief also said the U.S. military continues to support diplomats pushing for the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Mattis said Beijing had deployed a range of military hardware including anti-ship and surface-to-air missiles and electronic jammers across the South China Sea, where it has built islets and other maritime features into hardened military facilities. Beijing has also landed heavy bombers on Woody Island in the Paracel Islands.
China's militarization of artificial features in the South China Sea includes the deployment of anti-ship missiles, surface-to-air missiles, electronic jammers, and more recently, the landing of bomber aircraft at Woody Island.
But the message of inclusivity, cooperation, and working with allies might be a tougher sell for Mattis, who is generally popular on the international scene after his boss imposed metal tariffs on some of America's closest allies in the name of national security. Washington Post columnist Josh Rogin asked Mattis whether he thought it was unproductive for Trump to pick fights with allies on trade. In a dig at China, which the Pentagon has accused of using predatory economics to exploit neighbors, Mattis said the U.S. supports the peaceful resolution of disputes, free, fair, and reciprocal trade and investment, and adherence to international rules and norms. Despite frequent warnings from Washington about China's rising might and the pitfalls of its Belt and Road Global Infrastructure Initiative, Beijing has faced few consequences for its South China Sea buildup and sweeping territorial claims. One modest exception came last week, when the Pentagon disinvited China from biennial maritime exercises in the Pacific. Mattis characterized this action as an initial response.
Despite China's claims to the contrary, the placement of these weapon systems is tied directly to military use for the purposes of intimidation and coercion. China's militarization of the Spratlys is also in direct contradiction to President Xi's 2015 public assurances in the White House Rose Garden that they would not do this. The U.S. offers strategic partnerships, not strategic dependence. Alongside our allies and partners, America remains committed to maintaining the region's security, its stability, and its economic prosperity, a view that transcends America's political transitions and will continue to enjoy Washington's strong bipartisan support.
Delegates hoping for clarity on Trump's intentions for a scheduled June 12 summit with North Korean leader Kim did not get much from Mattis, though he said the issue of the permanent deployment of about 28,500 U.S. troops in South Korea will not be on the table.
If we can restore confidence-building measures with something verifiable, then of course these kinds of issues can come up subsequently between two sovereign democracies, the Republic of Korea and the United States. But that issue is not on the table here in Singapore on the 12th, nor should it be.
Our objective remains the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And the international community is in alignment here, as evidenced by multiple unanimous United Nations Security Council resolutions.
Mattis has tried to avoid weighing in on the summit, deferring questions to the State Department and Trump's national security team. Angela Milano, Eagle News 1 with 25.
Thank you, Angela. Nationalist Meral Akşener may have broken the mold by challenging Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan for the presidency barely 8 months after creating a new party, but she faced an uphill struggle to even be the top opposition candidate. Bridget Ibanez with a report.
Kavramsal olarak güçlü bir Irak, güçlü bir Suriye, iç işlerinde kavgasız bir Irak, kavgasız bir Suriye, güçlü bir Türkiye'ye sebep olur.
The first woman to stand for the presidency in Turkish history, Akşener, 61, broke away from the Nationalist Movement Party, MHP, that dominated nationalist politics for the last half-century, and in October launched her own faction, İyi, or the Good Party.
Devletler arasındaki ilişkiler devletler arasında olur. Yani önce Esad kardeşim deyip tatile gidip arkasından da ne olduğunu anlayamadığımız Türkiye'de yaşayanlar olarak bir sebeple katil Esed'e dönerse iş, bunun bir cevabı yok bizde.
While the MHP and its long-standing leader, Devlet Bahçeli, 70, formed an alliance with Erdogan for the June 24 election, Akşener moved in outright opposition to the Turkish strongman. The formation of İyi was seen as a tectonic shift in Turkish politics, given the importance of the nationalist electorate, with many analysts saying she has a decent chance of challenging Erdogan. But with markedly little television airtime, Akşener faces a tough challenge to rally support, especially with the other main opposition candidate, Muharrem İnce of the secular Republican People's Party, CHP, gaining momentum. And her reputation as a die-hard nationalist and former interior minister means it's unlikely she will make inroads among the Kurdish minority, who comprise around a fifth of the electorate. If no candidate wins 50% in the first round, there will be a runoff vote between the two frontrunners on July 8. Odil Shalap, associate professor of political science at Şik University in Istanbul, said it would likely be İnce rather than Akşener in the event of a runoff. İnce, he said, could both solidify the party base but also rally more non-partisan, independent, and floating voters around him. Akşener defines herself as a nationalist with a conservative side, as well as a devout Muslim, but shies away from comparisons to far-right politicians in Europe, such as France's Marine Le Pen, who heads the Front National. She has also been challenged on her policy towards Syrian refugees in a country which is hosting some 3.5 million people who fled the Syrian civil war, stoking growing internal tensions. Akşener has come under fire for saying that she would have an iftar meal, which breaks the daily fast during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan with Syrians, but only in their homeland. Known for her fiery rhetoric and dubbed by some foreign media as Turkey's Iron Lady, Akşener has denied speaking out against the refugees or suggesting they be thrown out.
Herkese eşit bir şekilde uygulanmasını sağlayacak bir iklimi ve buna inandıracak bir tavrı ortaya koymalıdır. Asıl bir diğer problemimiz de bu Türkiye'de.
Reporting for Eagle News, I'm Bridget Ibanez, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Bridget. The CEO of Brazil's troubled state-controlled oil major Petrobras, Pedro Parente, resigned in the wake of a devastating truckers' strike over high fuel prices that cast doubts over the future of the powerful company. Sabir Mufti reports.
Petrobras, a pillar of the Brazilian economy, said Parente, tendered his resignation as president of the company this morning. A new interim CEO, Ivan Monteiro, was named.
Escolhido hoje como interino, Ivan Monteiro, que é diretor da Petrobras, será recomendado ao Conselho de Administração para ser efetivado na presidência da Petrobras.
Parente quit after President Michel Temer bowed to demands from truckers for cheaper fuel, guaranteeing them discounted diesel for a period of 60 days.
Eu aproveito para reafirmar que meu governo mantém o compromisso com a recuperação e a saúde financeira da companhia, como fizemos nesses 2 anos.
This eroded the autonomy granted to Petrobras in late 2016 to set its own prices, a key demand of investors, but a policy that saw costs for motorists rise sharply, prompting widespread anger. And in the aftermath of the strike, which for 9 days shut down gas stations and food deliveries across Brazil, Temer rattled markets by hinting he might restore government price setting before he backtracked. The ministry said while consumers will be protected from price volatility, Petrobras will maintain the current practice of market prices for producers and importers, which the current administration considers a fundamental point for attracting investments.
Declaro também que não haverá qualquer interferência na política de preços da companhia.
The truckers' strike was followed by a strike of oil workers demanded Parente's resignation and threatening an indefinite strike later this month. Temer's inability to resist the pressure left him more than ever a lame duck ahead of October's elections that he will not contest. Parente headed Petrobras from July 2016 and was tasked with restoring credibility and financial health to the huge company after it was embroiled in Brazil's biggest ever corruption scandal, known as the car wash investigation. Politicians and Brazilian executives had colluded for years with Petrobras's leadership to fleece the oil major through sweetheart contracts and kickbacks. The scandal had ensnared everyone from Temer, who faces 2 criminal charges, to ex-president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who is now serving a 12-year prison sentence. Parente defended Petrobras's pricing policy, which was partly intended to remove the company from political influence, saying that price hikes reflected the global economy and its effects in the country. Reporting from Eagle News, I am Sabir Mufti, 1 with 25.
Up next, Canada hits U.S. with billions in retaliatory tariffs in Steel Row. Kiev seeks to reassure West over staging of journalist murder. Canada government steps in to buy controversial pipeline. Eagle News Canada will be returned in a moment.
Welcome to the garden. A world that brings you back to that natural, carefree feeling of joy and happiness. A place where art becomes your song to strengthen bonds. Creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. A world that recaptures the value of life. Breathe. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Canada. Canada hit back at steep U.S. tariffs on aluminum and steel, announcing retaliatory duties on up to 16.6 billion Canadian or 12.8 billion U.S. in American imports. Mika David with the details.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told a news conference the U.S. tariffs were totally unacceptable.
Let me be clear. These tariffs are totally unacceptable. For 150 years, Canada has been the United States' most steadfast ally.
The Canadian tariffs, which Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland said, are proportional to the U.S. duties, which will be applied to U.S. steel and aluminum, as well as consumer products from July 1st. These items include yogurt, coffee, sugar, toilet paper, sailboats, mattresses, washing machines, and lawn mowers. all aimed at exerting pressure on key U.S. states that export a lot to Canada. At the same time, Ottawa will challenge the illegal and counterproductive U.S. measures under the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, and at the World Trade Organization, said Freeland. The tit-for-tat trade spat comes after 9 months of negotiations between Canada, Mexico, and the United States to revamp NAFTA back down. Washington has granted Canada and Mexico an exemption on metal tariffs to give the parties time to successfully negotiate a new free trade deal. But Washington rejected the latest offer from its neighbors to accept a largest U.S. share of North American auto manufacturing in exchange for the U.S. dropping other consensus demands. Trudeau said he previously spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump and offered to fly to Washington and sit down with him to hammer out the final details of NAFTA, because there were broad lines of a decent win-win-win deal on the table. But Vice President Mike Pence called back this week to set a NAFTA sunset clause as a precondition for the meeting, which both Canada and Mexico had rejected. Trudeau said he replied that there was no possibility of any Canadian Prime Minister signing a NAFTA deal that included a 5-year sunset clause. Last month and earlier Thursday, Ottawa also unveiled measures to stop transshipments of steel and aluminum into the North American market, hoping to satisfy U.S. concerns and avert a trade war. But hope faded when U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross announced that the United States would impose tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum from Canada and other from Friday. Freeland noted that the United States has $2 billion trade surplus with Canada in steel, and that roughly half of all U.S. steel exports go to Canada. For Eagle News, I am Mika David. I am Juan with 25.
Thank you, Mika. Ukrainian law enforcement chiefs met Western diplomats to brief them on Kiev's decision to stage a contract-style killing of Russian journalist Arkady Babchenko, which has prompted widespread criticism. Justine Kusi with the details.
Around a dozen of diplomats went to Ukraine's Prosecutor General's office for a meeting behind closed doors that lasted nearly 2 hours. Prosecutor General Yuri Lutsenko had announced the meeting on television, saying that he wanted to explain everything that could be explained given the undercover nature of the investigation. Lutsenko said he had invited diplomats from the group of 7 countries, which is made up of Germany, Canada, the United States, France, Britain, Italy, and Japan. A source in the service confirmed Basil Gritsak, the head of Ukraine's SBU security service, which organized the special operation, also took part. Ukrainian police announced that Babchenko, a Russian emigre journalist known for his outspoken anti-Kremlin views, had been shot dead only for him to reappear alive and well at the news conference at the SBU headquarters the following day. The SBU and the Prosecutor General's office then revealed that the announcement of his death, which prompted a grief-stricken reaction around the world, had been made as part of the sting operation. Kiev has said the move was justified to foil a real plot to assassinate Babchenko and confirm the link between the killer and the organizer. It claims the murder plot was organized by the Russian secret services and envisaged killing not only Babchenko but also some 30 others. The way the murder was staged has attracted much criticism, particularly from the organizations representing journalists, which questioned the need for such extreme tactics. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas, who was visiting Kiev on Friday, said ahead of his visit that it was indispensable to shed light on what happened, and called on Ukraine to clarify the situation and encourage trust. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman Artyom Kozhin said at a briefing in Moscow on Friday that Kiev's actions have definitely undermined trust in Ukrainian sources of information, including official ones. He noted, however, they are in principle glad that Babchenko is alive. For Eagle News, I'm Justine Kusi, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Justine. Canada's government stepped in to take over controversial pipeline expansion project to ensure that it gets built in the face of stiff opposition from environmental activists and a regional government. Sheena Fortuna with more.
Finance Minister Bill Morneau said that Ottawa will pay Kinder Morgan 4.5 billion Canadian, which equals to $3.5 billion for the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which is to move 890,000 barrels of oil a day from landlocked Alberta to the Pacific coast for export overseas. The move effectively nationalizes the project in a bid to squash dozens of legal challenges and illegal protests at construction sites. Renault said that the federal government has reached an agreement with Kinder Morgan to purchase the Trans Mountain Pipeline and the infrastructure related to the project. Kinder Morgan investors must still approve the sale, which is scheduled to close in August, but the deal will allow construction to resume immediately, the minister said. Ottawa approved the project in 2016 after an environmental review saying it was in the national interest. Currently, 99% of Canada's oil is sold to the United States at a discount, and access to the Pacific coast is seen as key to diversifying the world's 6 largest oil producers' energy exports. Access to new oil markets was also key to Canada meeting its Paris climate target because Alberta, the nation's single largest pollution emitter, agreed to take action against carbon emissions if it gained access to new markets for its oil. But British Columbia's Social Democratic government recently joined environmental activists' fight against the 1,150 kilometers, which equals to 15 miles of pipeline, provoking a trade row with Alberta and leading Kinder Morgan to temporarily halt its construction until the dispute was resolved.
Today is the day when the illusion is gone that the government works for the people, because the government works only for money, only for profiteering. They are a corporation. They are a corporation.
Amid the feuding, the pipeline has become a barometer for foreign investments in Canada, with some warning of a spillover into other sectors of the economy. A majority of Canadians support the pipeline, according to recent polls, but they are reluctant to see tax dollars used to backstop it. Environmental protesters reacted to the announcement by vowing to press on, while business groups lauded the purchase. Opponents of the pipeline are concerned about the risk of oil spills from tankers along Canada's pristine Pacific coast, impacting fisheries and tourism.
We will not live this way. We will not allow them to harm these waters that we've cared for here since time immemorial.
If you look at how much we've been opposing this, we were using everything we have to oppose this, and this is everything to us. If you had the slightest bit of respect, you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't.
But Morneau said the Alberta-British Columbia feud, which led Alberta to boycott British Columbia wines and threatened to cut the neighboring provinces' fuel supplies, could not be allowed to fester. He said it threatens Canada's reputation as a safe place to invest, puts thousands of jobs at risk, and holds back Canada's economic growth.
We're not done. We're not done. We have more work to do now, sure, but I feel like this is just going to enrage people more. It's going to get more people fired up, and I feel like our fight's only going to get bigger, and it's only going to add more people to it. That's all they're doing.
His Liberals face a difficult balancing act in trying to champion climate action while supporting growth in Canada's oil sector. Until now, his government has used kid gloves to try to persuade British Columbia to abandon its opposition to the pipeline, hoping not to alienate voters in the province ahead of next year's general election. But British Columbia has refused to yield. Under the proposed federal plan, the Trans Mountain Pipeline will be placed under the stewardship of New Crown Corporation, and Ottawa will divest itself of the project at a later date. For Eagle News, I am Sheena Fortuna, 1 with 25.
EBC will take us to the annual Brick Can in Richmond, Canada, and former college football star signs a 2-year deal with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. That's next. Eagle News Canada will return shortly.
The machine is back at it. Guns N' Roses, not in this lifetime tour.
Welcome to the jungle.
The rock spectacle of 2018 comes to the Philippines. November 11th, 2018 at Philippine Arena, Bulacan. Quick sale for fan club members on June 8, 10 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Public on sale June 9, 10 a.m. Don't miss Guns N' Roses. Brought to you by MMI Live and Prestige Worldwide.
ASEAN in Focus. Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
This is Eagle News Canada. I am Kenny Aquino. For all you LEGO lovers, BrickCan is back in Canada. Jay Suarez with a story.
For all of you LEGO fans, the annual BrickCan is back for the third time. If you haven't heard of BrickCan, it is a non-profit society started by a group of people who have a passion for LEGO. Their main purpose is to hold and promote LEGO-based events and activities in Canada. Creations by different builders from around the world were on display. Attendees were able to shop for LEGO-themed books, clothing, jewelry, artwork, and rare LEGO sets and pieces. Ticket holders were invited to the Creation Station, which featured interactive building opportunities. The event has been described as a must-see, and tickets for most sessions are sold out early. Children 12 and under with tickets receive custom-designed BrickCan building sets to take home. Reporting from Richmond, Canada for Eagle News, my name is Jay Suarez. I am one with 25.
Thank you, Jay. Former college football star Johnny Manziel agreed to sign a 2-year deal with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. EBC's Anthony Sevilla with the details.
With the Canadian Football League regular season back in full action, the biggest free agent to sign this offseason is former college football star Johnny Manziel. Manziel, also known as Johnny Football, agreed to sign a 2-year deal with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The 2012 Heisman Trophy winner, which is given annually to the most outstanding player in college football, was picked 22nd overall in the 2014 NFL Draft by the Cleveland Browns and was released by the team in March of 2016. Manziel's off-field issues, however, have kept the former first-round NFL draft pick and former Texas A&M star from being successful in the NFL. The Tiger Cats organization, however, is convinced that Manziel is dedicated to turning his life around and ready to make a pro football comeback. Tiger Cats general manager Eric Tillman described the quarterback as a player of extraordinary gifts, which was why he was too hard to pass up. Negotiations between the team and Manziel started last September and have been ongoing with a series of physical and medical tests as part of the process. Despite the hype around Manziel's signing with the Ticats, quarterback Jeremiah Masoli is set to start for the team with Manziel as his backup. In spite of an 0-8 start to last season, head coach June Jones has maintained that Masoli has earned the right to start and that Manziel will have to prove fair and square to earn that starting position. Starter or backup, the fact remains that this is Manziel's opportunity to get back onto the field and play professional football for the first time since 2016. The addition of Manziel does create some excitement this month across the CFL, and fans are eager to learn whether or not his return to the field will equal success for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Reporting for EBC Sports, I'm Anthony Sevilla and I'm one with 25.
Thank you, Anthony. That is this week's Eagle News Canada. Join us next week for stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.ph and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenewsph. Thank you for watching. I am Kenny Aquino. I am one with 25.
This is EBC Sports International. This week's stories. Women's quarterfinal action at the French Open. Argentina cancels pre-World Cup match against Israel. Game 2 highlights of NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Former Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel signs a 2-year deal with CFL's Hamilton Tiger Cats. Strategies from Scripps National Spelling Bee contestants, plus CrossFit Atlantic Regionals in West Palm Beach, Florida. Hello everyone, I'm Rod Dela Paz, bringing you sports news from around the globe. Let's start with tennis. The women's semifinal is set, featuring 2 Grand Slam champions, the current world's #1 player, and a rising and talented American, all eyeing to be this year's French Open champion.
Top-seeded Simona Halep of Romania needed 3 sets to get past Germany's Angelique Kerber, 6-7, 6-3, 6-2, to advance to the semifinals on Wednesday. The 2-time finalists will face 2016 French Open and reigning Wimbledon champion, 3rd-seeded Garbiñe Muguruza of Spain, who dismantled 2014 champion Maria Sharapova with a lopsided 6-2, 6-1 victory in 70 minutes. The other semifinal draw features 2 Americans and a rematch of last year's U.S. Open Finals between reigning champion Sloane Stephens and Madison Keys. Stephens, seeded 10th, cruised past Russia's Daria Kasatkina 6-3, 6-1 to set up an All-American final with 13th seeded Keys, who defeated Kazakhstan's Yulia Putintseva 6-7, 6-4 to reach her first French Open semifinals. The 2 semifinal winners will play for the title on Saturday.
Argentina canceled Saturday's pre-World Cup match against Israel in Jerusalem due to political threats against superstar Lionel Messi.
Argentine Foreign Minister Jorge Fauri told reporters in Washington that the national team were reluctant to travel to the country for the game. On Sunday, Palestinian Soccer Association President Jabril Rajoub told the media for Messi not to play and urged fans to burn his jersey.
احنا راح نستهدف ميسي وراح نطالب الكل انه يحرق التيشيرت تبعه ويحرق صورته ويتخلى عنه، ولكن احنا بنأمل ما زلنا انه يوم الخميس ميسي ما يجي وميسي ما يكون غطاء لتبييض جرائم الاحتلال.
Rajoub continued to talk to the media and explained that the Argentine-Israel match is a red card towards Israel.
I think what happened yesterday is a red card from everybody to the Israelis to understand that they have the right to organize, to play football within their internationally recognized borders. This is a crystal message to the Israeli government that it's the time to recognize realities on the ground, to recognize the right of the Palestinian football family to enjoy the statutes of FIFA, as I think that the Israelis and the Argentinians, the Americans, everybody has the right to enjoy.
World Cup action begins June 14th in Russia.
Up next, Game 2 NBA Finals recap between the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And former Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel signs a 2-year deal with the CFL's Hamilton Tiger Cats. We'll be right back.
As Eagle Broadcasting Corporation marks its 50th year, it is conducting several activities under the theme EBC Cares, enabling a better community. Health and nutrition are key factors on child's learning and well-being. EBC's feeding program encourages the community to combat malnutrition among children and ensure them a healthy future. EBC's cleanup drive and citronella planting hopes to help the community in caring for the environment and preventing diseases such as dengue. EBC's public service program, Paglilingkod sa Bayan, Serbisyo para sa Mamamayan, has opened its doors to government agencies so more people can avail of these services. EBC's blood donation program and medical mission continue to spearhead life-saving projects, and EBC's livelihood seminar teaches and guides those who want to have additional income and business. EBC Cares, serving the people in these interesting times. Know the latest news and information here and abroad. In Aguila, Balita, track the latest happenings in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Be aware of important events in Asia, in ASEAN in Focus, and be updated in the biggest news around the world in Eagle News International. Tune into Mata ng Aguila and get the day's headlines and news that are sharp, accurate, and objective. Only here at Net 25.
Welcome back. This is EBC Sports International. Steph Curry hit a record-breaking 9 3-pointers in the Golden State Warriors Game 2 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers last Sunday. Here's EBC Los Angeles correspondent Ken Cruz as he recaps the series from Oracle Arena in Oakland, California. Take a look.
There are huge expectations for Game 2 of the 2018 NBA Finals. Game 1 delivered with overtime insanity, and the Warriors escaped with a win. Many, including some of the Warriors team members, believe Golden State was lucky to get the W. With some questionable fouls called by the refs and J.R. Smith's blunder of a play to end regulation, the Warriors did seem to luck out and get the victory. LeBron James's legendary 51-point performance was all for naught. Can the King regroup his troops and steal a game in Oakland? Or will the Warriors and their 4 future Hall of Famers prevail once again at home?
Draymond, Ken Cruz, Eagle News. Steph broke a record tonight, finals record, 9 threes. And it seems kind of pedestrian at this point, but I mean, does it surprise you at all? I mean, some of those shots that he made in the fourth quarter, third quarter, are you surprised?
I wouldn't necessarily say surprise. He's a big shot taker, big shot maker, tough shot taker, tough shot maker, and he did that tonight. The one where he was falling away was, I wouldn't necessarily say surprise about that, but it's like, oh man, he really got it going. But we've seen this before, where he completely just takes the game over with his scoring ability, and he did that tonight, and it came at a great time for us because they really had it going. Start that second half, they had a really good third quarter.
Obviously Steph, Clay, KD had great games as expected, but how dangerous are the Warriors when you have McGee and also Livingston perfect from the field? I think it was 11 field goals, so 11 for 11.
Everything's a ball game, no matter what. Starts with those 4 guys, obviously the 4 all-stars, and everyone else just does their job. They don't miss a beat when they put someone in or they take someone out. So it's not something that's surprising.
JaVale, both you and Sean were perfect from the field today. How big a role is it for you guys to perform like that, especially going to Cleveland?
It's extremely big. Especially for me, I have to finish the easy buckets and especially the above the rim plays and keep the pace up. So that's all I'm out there trying to do.
Katie, the Cavs have only lost 1 home game this entire playoffs. That first game against the Pacers, they're a completely different team at home. What do you guys need to do in order to steal 1, if not 2, in Cleveland?
We got to come out with a sense of urgency to start the game. We know they're playing with a lot of energy. The crowd is going to be into it.
like you said, only lost one game, so they feel very, very confident in Cleveland. So we just got to come out there and stick to our game plan, keep playing hard.
The last time Cleveland's lost at home was Game 1 of against the Pacers for this postseason. How do you guys play so well at home, and how do you replicate that going into Game 3 and 4?
I mean, it's a lot. Home court advantage is, can be a real thing. I mean, we look at how good the Warriors are here at Oracle. I mean, it's the same for us at home. We feel like we feed off of our crowd. We really get up to play at home, and we know that come Wednesday we're going to have to be better. There's a couple things that, a couple coverages that would glue, a couple of mishaps that we had on the defensive end, a couple of lapses that we had on the offensive end when things got stagnant. So we just have to be better. But I think just going home and being in front of our crowd for Game 3 of the finals would be huge for us.
Game 2 showed what the Warriors are capable of. Devastating and debilitating threes from all over the floor and amazing bench play. The Cavs were overwhelmed with Steph Curry's finals record-breaking performance, sinking 9 threes. LeBron and his team are unfazed though. They've been down 0-2 before and are almost unbeatable in Cleveland, as they've only lost 1 game at home all postseason. Can the Warriors continue the offensive onslaught on the road, or will the Cavs even up the series? Next game is on Wednesday. It's gonna be good. Till next time, I'm Ken Cruz, always 1-25.
Thanks, Ken. Former Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Manziel would take his talents north of the border, signing a 2-year deal with the Canadian Football League team, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. EBC Canada correspondent Anthony Sevilla reports. Take a look.
With the Canadian Football League regular season back in full action, the biggest free agent to sign this offseason is former college football star Johnny Manziel. Manziel, also known as Johnny Football, agreed to sign a 2-year deal with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The 2012 Heisman Trophy winner, which is given annually to the most outstanding player in college football, was picked 22nd overall in the 2014 NFL Draft by the Cleveland Browns and was released by the team in March of 2016. Manziel's off-field issues, however, have kept the former first-round NFL draft pick and former Texas A&M star from being successful in the NFL. The Tiger Cats organization, however, is convinced that Manziel is dedicated to turning his life around and ready to make a pro football comeback. Tiger Cats general manager Eric Tillman described the quarterback as a player of extraordinary gifts, which was why he was too hard to pass up. Negotiations between the team and Manziel started last September and have been ongoing with a series of physical and medical tests as part of the process. Despite the hype around Manziel's signing with the Ticats, quarterback Jeremiah Masoli is set to start for the team with Manziel as his backup. In spite of an 0-8 start to last season, head coach June Jones has maintained that Masoli has earned the right to start and that Manziel will have to prove fair and square to earn that starting position. Starter or backup, the fact remains that this is Manziel's opportunity to get back onto the field and play professional football for the first time since 2016. The addition of Manziel does create some excitement this month across the CFL, and fans are eager to learn whether or not his return to the field will equal success for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Reporting for EBC Sports, I'm Anthony Sevilla and I'm 1-25.
Thanks, Anthony. Coming up, strategies from America's best spellers at the National Script Spelling Bee competition, and CrossFit Atlantic Regionals in West Palm Beach, Florida. That's next. EBC Sports International will return in a moment.
Ano ang tunay na kahulugan ng tagumpay? What is the meaning of success to Miss Gladys?
True meaning of success for me is good health, intact family, of course, and strong foundation of a strong spiritual foundation.
Eagle Broadcasting Corporation not only provides news and entertainment, but also fulfills its social responsibility through clean-up drives, blood donations, medical mission. A livelihood seminar. Eagle Broadcasting Corporation into its 50th year.
I touched it. I touched the ball before it went out, Coach.
Come on, Alex. The ref did not call that.
You gotta be kidding me, Alex.
It's the championship game.
Talk to him, Coach. I touched it. It's their ball.
Don't foul them when they inbound. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go on, Alex.
Sorry, Coach. Alex. Good call.
Sportsmanship. Pass it on.
Right. I touched it, man.
Pep News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
And we're back. This is EBC Sports International. I'm Rod Della Paz. Competing in national spelling bees takes determination and wit. But how do the nation's best spellers strategize and handle the pressure? EBC New York correspondent Tenny Sumagi talks with several competitors at the Scripps National Spelling Bee in National Harbor, Maryland. Take a look.
It's the 91st Scripps National Spelling Bee at the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center in National Harbor, Maryland, the host site of America's prestigious educational competition. A record 516 spellers around the nation battled on stage in this 3-day buzzworthy competition, where participants studied language patterns and etymologies, the historical roots of words in hopes of winning the coveted trophy. Several participants shared with us their strategies of being a great speller in this fierce competition.
Well, the best strategies are you have to be willing to study a lot of the time, and you have to get a support network, whether it's your parents, your teachers, or your friends. At school, a ton of my friends, people who were acquaintances, started reading my dictionary to me or searching words and helping me study. It's really just being able to practice and having someone to help you practice.
I like to make flashcards and then rehearse them with family. That have helped me study for the past few months.
You have to be able to handle the stress because there's a lot of nerves, and also you just have to be really dedicated to and just really want it. Practice a lot, just go over the words, and also if you study Latin roots and the roots of different words, it also helps a ton. Try your best if you're ever wanting to get here.
You can start with studying the list that Scripps gives you, because that's for round 2, but after that they just use the dictionary. So it's helpful to study rules in languages that you don't know very well. Like for me, that would be French and Italian and Welsh. I like to spell because it helps me with my writing, since I can use the words I've learned. And for any new spellers, just don't be nervous and read a lot, because you'll find a lot of unusual words in books without having to go hunting for them.
In the preliminaries, there was vocab ask and spelling, so you have to know roots and origins and definitions if it helps. So if the pronunciation is hard, then I would ask for the definition so it could help me, or the origins.
The first thing I would say was learn your root words, because those are really important. Study the language patterns, and then from there just try to memorize the definitions of commonly used words, because those are very important as well.
Indian Americans continue to dominate the spelling bee. This year's title went to 14-year-old wildcard entry Karthik Namani from McKinney, Texas, whose winning word was cornonia. an intimate spiritual or Christian communion. Besides the trophy, Namani won more than $40,000 in cash and prizes. Founded in 1925, the Script Spelling Bee aims to better promote literacy across the nation, to encourage children to become great spellers and lifelong readers.
Reporting from National Harbor in Maryland, I am Tenny Samagi, and I am 1 with 25.
Thanks, Tenny. CrossFit introduced the sport of fitness to the world as the very first games inaugurated in 2007 in Northern California. 11 years later, the games featured qualifying rounds and have expanded in 9 different regions around the world. EBC Florida correspondent Jay Risquidez brings us coverage of the CrossFit Atlantic Regionals in West Palm Beach, Florida. Take a look.
The atmosphere is alive here at the Atlantic Regionals at the 2018 CrossFit Games. This grueling 3-day event is designed to test the mental and physical fortitude of these athletes as they compete here in West Palm Beach, Florida, as the pit stop on the road to the fittest.
The Atlantic Regionals were filled with grit and determination from athletes who competed from all over the East Coast. There were 2 events held in each of the 3 days of competition for the men's, women's, and team categories. For the women, Day 1 belonged to Cassidy Lance McWhorter, who ended Event 1 10th overall, but finished 1st overall after completing the second event with 100 points. It was a tight one for the men's division, as Adam Klink finished 2nd overall after 2 events. But after finishing the first event 10th overall, John Colte powered through to gain the top spot for Day 1.
I just kind of put myself at ease. I said that this was my last year competing individually. Actually, I'm going to do team next year. So just with that in mind, I'm just kind of giving it everything I got, and it just mentally, it kind of puts me at ease going through all these events.
Day 2 began with the team division, as Hustle Hard CrossFit came in as runner-up after taking the 8th overall spot in Event 3. However, the top dogs were Team Soul out of Miami, who maintained their lead through both days. Colson Lamb Casey and Cassidy Lance McWhorter topped in their heats, but it was Emily Bridgers who took the lead in the overall standings for the women for Day 2. John Colte dropped from the top spot in Day 1 to 10th overall in Day 2. The competition was tight in the final day of the Atlantic Regionals as Noah Olsen took 1st place, and the final 5th placement to advance went to Ethan Helbig for the men's category. In the women's division, Cassidy Lance McWhorter passed up Emily Bridges for the final top spot, and Paige Semenza took the final spot to advance to the games. And in the team division, Team Soul dominated all throughout the Atlantic Regionals as the top team to advance, and Hustle Hard CrossFit went down in standings, but were able to take the final spot. Although they did not advance to the games, several athletes were still in good spirits and continued to inspire fans and future competitors through teamwork and camaraderie.
It's fun and we get to bond and you never feel alone. So like if you're really tired, you know one of your friends is going to help you out. So you always have someone to turn to. So it's nice.
Honorable mention goes to Erin Carter. Though she finished last overall in the women's standings, she still managed to advance to the games in the Masters 40 to 44s category.
You actually have more in you because you've been through some things, so you understand when you get out there, when you're in CrossFit, that it hurts, but you've been through a lot worse, and it's always in that, like, there's growth. And as you age, you experience that in all different levels, and CrossFit is just part of that.
And there you have it. The CrossFit Games will begin August 1st through the 5th in Madison, Wisconsin, as athletes from all over the world will gather and find out who will be the fittest on Earth. Signing off from West Palm Beach, Florida, I'm Jay Risquidez with the Florida Bureau, always 1 with 25.
Thanks, Jay. That is EBC Sports International. Tune in next week for sports news from around the globe. I'm Rod De La Paz, 1 with 25.
I touched it. I touched the ball before it went out, Coach.
Come on, Alex. The ref did not call that.
You gotta be kidding me, Alex.
It's the championship game.
Talk to him, Coach. I touched it. It's their ball.
Don't foul them when they inbound. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Nice going, Alex.
Sorry, Coach.
Alex. Good call.
Sportsmanship. Pass it on.
Right. I touched the man.
Digital Investors, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to watch our future features.
This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.